Welcome back to the You Know My Voice podcast. I'm Kelli-Leigh, and my guest today is a writer and artist who's recently blown up the airwaves with her incredible record with Billy Gillies, done over 50 million streams. Hannah Boleyn is my special guest in the studio today.
Oh, thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, good. How lovely to have you on the sofa.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. So, Hannah, we want to talk about your journey in our crazy world of the music industry. But you just said to me before we sat down, when was it that we met? And we met over a Zoom screen in lockdown.
Yeah, we did. I think on a writing camp, which was probably one of my first writing camps. I feel like I was very green at that point. Mm-hmm. And I know that along our friendship, we've had a few moments where you've been like, Hannah, this is what you need to do. And I've been like, okay, Kelli-Leigh, I'll do that.
I saw my big sister's coming out.
But I'm really grateful for it, and really grateful for people like yourself who have given me advice over the last few years. So I'm so glad we met on that Zoom.
I know, right? Yeah, our record was like something Marmalade. It's Marmalade. I think it's still a banger. Still needs to get signed, if anyone.
Yeah.
We were going for K-pop with this one. Anyway, it will sit on the hard drive for now, but it will happen. It's been really great to work with you and have our friendship develop as well. We've been in quite a few sessions, and it's been really exciting to see how you've really blown up the last year with your work and what you do as a writer, because, you know, we've often talked a lot about this industry and how it can make you feel the bottom of the barrel. And then one day someone goes, I love what you do. What you do is awesome and it works.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I had I think I've been really lucky from the point that I decided to start specifically doing dance music. It feels like it's been quite an intense journey. Mm-hmm. And I definitely had a couple of records where I was like, oh, I think this is going to go. And then it kind of did, and then it didn't.
Yeah.
And by the time I did DNA, I'd actually got to the point where I was like, you know what, that's not going to happen for me, and that's okay. Like, I'll do these cool dance records. And I'd actually really made my peace with the fact that it wasn't going to happen for me. So then when it did, guess it felt even sweeter.
Yeah, sometimes I think that that's supposed to be a thing that a lot of artists talk about. As soon as you sort of go, okay, I'm done, or you know what, I'm just going to let this go, is when something happens. I remember a story of Daniel Bedingfield. He was like living in a bedsit and having a really bad time, and like, it's not happening anymore. I'm just going to give up on this music career, and then got to get through this, went massive.
It is weird how the universe kind of seems to do that.
Yeah, and interject. Sometimes I felt like the music industry could be like a bit of an abusive relationship.
Oh, it totally is. It totally is. Yeah, it like beats you around, and then it's like, I still love you.
I still love you. And you're like, really?
There's hope.
There's hope. I'm like, no, you're incredible. You're the best singer and writer ever. Here, look, have all these great things. Oh my God, I made it. No, you're crap. No one wants you.
Yeah. It is. It does really feel like that. It's definitely not a healthy industry to be in.
No, it's definitely, the highs are high and the lows are low.
Yeah.
But then, so let's take it back before we go to there. Why did you get into this industry? Talk to me about baby Hannah with her big dreams.
Honestly, I know this is really bad, but I think I've definitely always been a massive attention seeker.
Love that.
I've got a brother who's 2 years older than me, and he used to play video games all the time when I was growing up. And I used to walk into the room and sing to annoy him.
Brilliant.
Which I'm like, I would have hated myself.
That's just sibling love. Yeah.
And then I don't really know where it came from, but it's always something that I've loved. I started going to dance classes when I was younger, and I actually thought I wanted to do dancing. Mm-hmm. That kind of developed into wanting to do musical theatre, and then I ended up going to musical theatre school, and I thought that was, apart from a brief period where I wanted to be in the Spice Girls.
Oh yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
Then when I figured out that you couldn't just join the Spice Girls,
such a blow.
Yeah, so rude.
What would have been your Spice? Who would you?
I mean, I was always a Posh Spice fan.
Yeah.
But I'd say Moody Spice. Yeah.
Spice. That's quite good. I like that title. Yeah. I'll be Hormonal Spice.
Amazing.
Yeah. depending on the time of the month.
So yeah, I kind of thought I wanted to do musical theatre and went to a musical theatre school, and that very much taught me that I did not belong in musical theatre.
What was it that pushed you over the edge of the musical theatre world?
My voice isn't remotely suited for musical theatre to start with. I don't know why I ever thought it was. And the school was awful. The other students were lovely, and I made some incredible friends, but the teachers were so mean.
Oh, no.
And one thing really specifically stands out to me. They were doing a showcase, but it was like at a local hotel where like there were going to be, I feel like 12 people in the audience.
Right.
And I think there were 14 of us in the year. And they said, we're only taking 12 of you, so you all have to audition.
Right, nice.
And me and one other girl didn't get in.
How old were you at this time?
16.
That's really mentally brutal.
It was heartbreaking.
Yeah. What was your Hunger Games challenges that they set for you?
I think we had to just sing a song in front of them, but again, it was musical theatre. And to be fair, like I can't sing musical theatre. It's big belty voices, and that's not what I do. And I do a lot of like sliding up to notes, which is apparently not allowed. But I guess everything happens for a reason, and I ended up being like, you know what? I'm going to write my own songs because I can sing them how I want to sing them. Yeah. And you can't tell me I'm singing it wrong because it's my own song.
Yeah.
So I guess, you have to be grateful for everything that's happened, because maybe if I hadn't have been through that, I wouldn't have found songwriting.
Yes, so those knockbacks create a new path window and some resilience. I mean, how long were you at that school for?
I think I only managed a year and a half before I threw the towel in.
It's intense. I mean, I briefly went to a theatre school as well, and they just, did make you feel not good enough a lot of the time. I mean, but they got me, I think, one audition in the end, and that was to play an Indian character, and my heritage is not Indian, but they were like, you will do because that looks about right, and you're just like,
but that made you feel great.
It's like this is racism, it's fine, And then there was one other, I remember one other, which is when when you have those things that burn in your brain as like deep embarrassment, and sometimes like you're not outgoing enough, you need to be more. And I remember we had like an audition for Pringles. Remember Pringles is like the big thing. I mean, still, once you pop, you can't stop. They're not sponsoring us, by the way, but anyway. I remember
other crisps available.
Other crisps are available. And we were all in the dance space to do this audition. So they just had us all, and like the scout just wanted to like see what we could do, and we had to just be picked. Like one of us would, would have to run around the circle, just being like full of life and just being like, like if you're on an advert, like Pringles or something. So I think I was probably like, I don't know, 15th person to be picked or something. They were whittling down to the end, and it was like, well, we kind of have to choose Kelli-Leigh to do something. So I thought, I'm going to do it. So I just went wild and like ran around the circle, just sort of screaming, being like, like this is so exciting, or whatever weird thing I did. And they all just sort of stopped and looked at me, and the scout was like, and it was too much. And then like the teachers at school were like, and I was just like, and then you stand back in the circle and you're like,
I mean, that is actually, I think, a really classic example of what continues to go on, where I don't know if you found this, but I've definitely had moments in my career where you have people that are working with you and they're like, you should do this and you should do this. And I had moments where I was like, I just need to please everyone and do what everyone tells me, because if I do what everyone tells me, then, I can get there.
Yeah.
And I would follow all this advice. And then when it didn't quite go to plan, suddenly they'd all disappeared into the distance, and you're left dealing with it.
Yes.
And you're like, hang on, I took all your advice. I did everything you asked of me.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh yeah, it wasn't really anything to do with that. Ooh. And you're like, great, thanks guys.
And
team.
I know, right? And you just have to have this word with yourself. I mean, I think that's also why my path has gone the way it has in the end. You get to a point where you're just like, do you know what? I'm just going to do it my way. And I just have to be me, because, and I know everybody says that, but we are in a weird industry where it's like, be yourself, be original, be unique, but also this person's doing this, and that's what's hot and blowing up. So if you could be like that, and it's like the weirdest industry where it's like, you're supposed to be complete individual, but if you don't please certain powers that be, then you're not selected to be supported.
Yeah.
So it's a real mental game of trying to be like, I'm just doing this, but I hope they like me, and I don't care if they don't like me because this is my art, but God, I hope they like it, you know.
Yeah, it's a head.
It's a head piece.
Yeah.
So when you then left this place and then you decided, I'm going to go and write my own songs, do you remember the first song you wrote?
Yeah, I wrote a song for my mum.
Oh, what was it?
It was called No Love Stronger. And it was like, there's no love stronger than the love from a mother.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great title.
I was, again, just trying to get a bit of attention.
Well, darling, you are a performer. So there's an element of all of us needing our attention.
Look, Mum, look what I've done. But yeah, I did that, and I have to shout out a guy called Steve Fern, who I basically decided I wanted to write songs, and I was like, I need someone to help me because I don't know what I'm doing. My parents aren't in the music industry at all. I think my dad can play one song on piano. And they were like, the only person we know is this guy called Steve, and he's in a comedy duo. And I think he was in his late 60s at the time. He's in his 70s now.
Right.
And he offered to help, and I would go around to his house on a Saturday morning, and he, you know how, I don't even know if they still have this, but keyboards have like the preset things where you can do like samba.
Oh, yes.
And you press it, and then you play some chords, and it goes like whatever.
Yeah.
So I would sing him ideas, and he would make the songs using those.
Oh, I love that.
And they were my first demos. But he also taught me a lot about simplicity in songwriting, and he was so encouraging, and everything I took in, he was never mean about anything, and really encouraged me to develop my songwriting. And I guess every week I was going around with new ideas, so it also got me used to doing that. And then, sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but he then was like, you need to start performing, you need to learn how to perform, so why don't you come along to some of my gigs and you can get up and sing 2 of your songs.
Oh, great.
And like, basically this comedy duo, they go around all the like working men's clubs in Leicester, and they have these comedy acts. So they'll have one bit where the guy will sing Pavarotti, but while he's singing it, they blow a massive balloon up inside of his t-shirt and then pop it at the end.
Okay.
Like, it's really high-end stuff.
Yeah.
And they have all these like, and then they'll have like monkey puppets and stuff. So I went along and I was petrified. And they kept being like, now we've got a very special guest. It's the monkey puppets. And I'd be like, oh my God. Anyway, got through that first gig, and then I would go round to all these gigs with them, and I went to gigs where people had fights in the audience.
Oh, wow.
I went to gigs where they were like, put the bingo back on. So it really it was a great learning experience for me, because now if I have something that I'm nervous about, I'm like, you can do this. You've been through worse than this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have to give him a massive shout out, because that was my first real experience in songwriting.
I love that. Big up, Steve. That's really, really cool. That reminds me of one of my first performances where I went to college, and I went to Brit, and you're used to having a task of doing your performance, and then people watch it and give you a round of applause. And then, you know, my first actual real performance gig was in a pub on Sundays, singing background music for Sunday lunch. And I just couldn't believe people were like talking through it, because I went to school and I was like, this is rude. They should be listening. And the guy I was with at the time, he was like, this is how it is. Just like, stop complaining, sing the songs and get on with it, because they don't need to listen to you, kind of thing. And I was just like, I didn't know this is how it works. And got my 150 quid or whatever it was that was being paid, nominal fee, and my lunch. And and that was a wake-up call into what the real world of performing and putting yourself out there is. Yeah,
it can be pretty crushing
at times. Exactly. So then you also went through that, but then there must be an element of you that loved it.
Yeah, I guess, because I kept going back for more.
Yeah.
And I think at that age I was still super young, and I still was like, I'm going to be a pop star. Then kind of fast forward, I basically did that thing that I assume other people do, where literally everyone I met, I was like, I want to be a pop star. Can you help me?
Yes.
What do you do? And eventually ended up meeting a radio plugger.
Oh, nice.
Who specialises in Radio 2. Shout out Chris Hesso.
Come on, Chris.
And he is from Birmingham originally, and I'm from Leicester, so that's kind of how we crossed paths. But he was then obviously down in London most of the time, and I was still living in Leicester, and I would do that thing where he'd be like, oh, I'm actually free for coffee in like 2 hours. And I'd be like, great, I happen to be in the area. And then I would like get on a train.
Oh, that's so good.
And get down to London. And then sometimes he'd be like, oh, babe, I'm so sorry. Like, not knowing that I'd
Just
come all the way down to London. I'd be like, yeah, no stress at all. It's fine. So after a bit of time of that, I made the move down to London because I was like, this is insane. I can't keep doing this. And this is obviously where I need to be.
How old were you when you moved down to London?
I think I was 20 when I moved down.
And did you know someone you were moving down to, or you're like, I've got my bag in the big city?
Yeah, one of my best friends was going traveling, and she had, I think, 3 or 4 months before she was going. So she was like, I'll just come with you as an adventure.
Oh, fun.
Which was incredible. So that was really great. So I was really lucky. And I remember like the first night we'd arrived and we were like, we're going to go to a pub and then we'll just like make friends.
Of course.
And we went and sat in this pub and shockingly didn't speak to anyone all night.
It's London.
And we still now occasionally like have a little joke with ourselves where we look at our group of friends and we're like, we've got London friends.
Oh, that's
we
cute.
did it. But yeah, so kept in touch with this radio plugger and he was like, keep sending me stuff. You've not got the song yet, but I think there's something there. And eventually found one that he was like, I think we can give this a go. And he was like, I think I can get you one play on Radio 2, which I was like, incredible. That would be huge for me. Didn't have any management, like just knew this radio plugger. And through, I guess, the stars aligning, ended up on the Radio 2 playlist.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
And he was like, don't think that it's this easy every time, Hannah. Like, this is wild.
What was the song called?
When You're Gone.
Nice. And was it, what kind of genre was it? And
so this was, I don't want to say singer-songwriter because I think that makes it sound acoustic, but much more like pop, kind of chill pop, I think.
Yeah.
So did that and then went for coffee with him and he was like, right, you have 2 choices now. We have like another song that maybe we could go with and we kind of just keep like rolling with it and seeing what happens. Or you get a proper manager, take like a year out, go away, write your album.
Right.
And then we'll come back to it. And he was like, both of them have their risks and it's up to you. And I decided to take the second one.
Right.
Which again, everything happens for a reason. But I ended up meeting this manager who was a total shark.
Oh no.
He took loads of money off me.
Oh no.
And again, at this point, I didn't really know anyone else in the industry. So I didn't know that was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with you talking earlier about feeling embarrassed, I kind of, more and more got this feeling of like, this isn't right. And I'd been introduced to him through the radio plugger. So I was like, he must know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I ended up being like, I need to speak to Chris, the plugger, about this. So we went for coffee and I was like, look, I don't know if this is like normal but like this is what's been going on. And he was like, oh my God, I had no idea.
Oh no.
I'm so sorry. Why haven't you come to me sooner?
And that's also, that's such a hard question. Why haven't you come to me? So it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is new to me.
I was like, because I was embarrassed and I thought you knew and I thought you were going to tell me I was wrong or all of those things. So sorry, I think I've gone on a massive tangent.
No, this is really part of your journey and your story. So did you end up leaving him?
So yeah, left the manager. And it was kind of that point, I'd done a few more singles after that and had got some more plays on Radio 2, but we'd never quite built that momentum back up. And in the process of all of that, I'd done one thing that's a real standout memory for me is I did a UK radio tour.
Amazing.
And had another regional radio plugger who was incredible, and he got me all these amazing interviews. And part of it was we went up to Scotland, and it was during Fringe Week. And I performed for BBC Scotland as part of Fringe Week, and then I was going to be on their version of ITV.
Right, yeah.
Like on the breakfast show, and then I was doing a gig that evening.
Mm-hmm.
I'd done all this stuff, and I went to the gig that evening, and there were 4 people there.
Oh.
And I was like, what am I doing? This is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I'd rather there be no one here, because now these 4 people have witnessed that everyone hates me.
Oh, no. And were you doing that part of it with no manager as well?
All of it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, gosh.
So
there's no support network for you through this.
And again, I still really didn't know anyone in the industry, particularly like I feel I do now.
Mm.
So at that point, I was like, I'm done with being an artist. This sucks.
Yeah.
And the thing that I'd always got great feedback on was the writing.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to write for other people. I think that's the path for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to see a writer friend who I'd met through doing my own stuff called Jez, who is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how do I get into writing? Because I've only written for myself. And I actually ended up doing another course. I did the course at Tileyard.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of didn't do it. I want to be careful about what I say here, but didn't really do it for the lessons, but did it for
being in the right space.
Being in the right place. Yeah.
I mean, that's not a bad thing to say at all. That's part of our industry, is choosing the right thing to be in the right space. Like, and if, people, that's why you go to networking nights or you go to certain events. It's like, I might not want to go to this event, but such and such might be there, and that might be the thing that helps get the thing and the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's part of our industry.
So that was kind of how I ended up getting my foot in the door with my first few sessions. And
also, just to quickly interject, you did the right thing.
It turned out to be the right thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I was really convinced that I was going to be a writer. And to start with, I wasn't even going to sing the demos. I was like, someone else can sing. Like, it's, I'm here to write.
Yeah. So what was your first, because then that must have been weird, because I'm guessing the first sessions they were putting you in were dance sessions. So had you ever written any dance before?
I think I'd been sent one dance instrumental at some point during my artist thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'd done a terrible job of trying to write a top line over it. So yeah, I can't remember my first dance session, but yeah, with it being Tileyard, which for people that don't know is a place that's very dance focused, ended up doing dance sessions, and it didn't feel actually weird. And looking back, my mum was an aerobics teacher when I was growing up.
Oh yes, I remember this from your one sheet. So yeah.
And when I'd been doing my kind of more singer-songwriter stuff, I felt this huge pressure to be like, oh, I'm inspired by Aretha Franklin. And I was like, well, don't get me wrong, she's incredible, but it's not the music I grew up around.
Yeah.
Actually, I grew up around dance music because my mum was practicing her routines, or when she couldn't get a babysitter, I'd go and sit at the back of the class and behave like a horrible little child and swing across the gym ropes. But that's what I grew up listening to. And so then when I started writing dance music, I was like, oh, this feels pretty natural, actually.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. And then I guess had a couple of sessions where there wasn't another vocalist. So I was like, okay, cool, well, I'll sing it.
Yeah.
And then I had this idea for this song called One Drink. And so I wrote it with a guy that I'd met on the course.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was actually like, you should do this as your own song. And I was like, well, I'm kind of done with that. And I don't really even know how that would work.
Yeah.
So I just started pitching out amongst other stuff that I was pitching out. And that got picked up by some DJs called PBH and Jack. And they were like, well, why don't you just feature on it? And I was like, okay. yeah, why not? I guess so.
I love it.
And that was the start of this crazy journey I've been on now, I guess.
Which one is that? How does this one go? Because I love the one that you've done, Save the Planet, Eat Organic.
Oh, yeah.
I love that record so much. Take a deep breath, don't start to panic. It's so good.
Yeah, I've done some great records with PBH and Jack.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
So this one is like, one drink, I was only gonna go for one drink.
Oh, cool.
And it's basically inspired by, I can't remember the comedian's name, but there's a comedian who's talking about when you're like, oh, you know, you're not going to go out, and then you go for one, and then you're out, and then you're out, and all that kind of skit.
Sometimes those are actually the kind of the best ones, because it's like when you plan something really big, it's like, this is going to be the great night, and we'll let my hair down, and then you're just like, meh. And then it's just like a small one that actually is like, the vibe is cool.
Oh yeah, like a random Tuesday, like you don't look great.
Yeah,
you've just gone for like an after work drink.
Yeah,
they're always the best ones.
Literally.
Yeah. So it's kind of built around that concept.
That's wicked. So then, when do we get to then your big smasher, Billy Gillies?
So then I'm kind of like, the features thing is going well, so I'm like, great. And I've learned to take the approach of leaning into what's working and just rolling with that. So I was like, this feature thing seems to be working. That's great. Let's run with that. I guess I was getting the confidence back in my own voice as well, which I had lost at periods. So I then did a couple of cool ones with PBH and Jack. I did one with a guy called Michael Calfan that kind of streamed really well. And then I had kind of two, I'm trying to think, you know, and you're like, what year was this? Kind of like, I guess a year and a bit before I did DNA, I had two things that felt huge for me at the time. One was an Armin van Buuren cut. However, this was, again, I didn't have management at the time, so the writers had pitched it, and I got told kind of through a chain of people that I couldn't have my name on it.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And I don't know where that came from in the chain and why that was. And I don't regret it, because I made the decision that I wanted the cut for me as a writer. So it was more important that the song was out there for that.
Yeah.
But I'm still like, I don't really understand
why I couldn't have my name attached to what I've written and sung.
Yeah. But that was kind of that. So that was kind of bittersweet, because that was my first big dance cut.
And it did well.
Yeah, it did pretty well. And again, there was a lot of like playing out at big shows. Which I was like, it's incredible to hear my voice and my writing, but
it doesn't feel good to not be receiving that acknowledgement for my work. Yeah. And this is just such a common thread and common theme with vocal artists in dance. They just don't want to put our names on our works until we hit a certain level of benefit, which I do not understand, because it doesn't to take away.
It really doesn't. And even when I have my name on stuff, I still find that most people, they have to actively kind of take an interest and seek you out. They'll always look at the first name on the record first.
Yeah.
And I don't think that having a feature on it ever takes away from the level of recognition the song's going to get, or that the DJ's going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty obvious that, like, when it's a male DJ and there's a female vocal all over it, it's like, it's pretty obvious it's not you.
Yeah, exactly.
So why not put the vocalist name on it?
Exactly.
And I don't put all of the blame on the DJs, because I do think there's this weird thing in the industry where there's this feeling that if you put someone else's name on it, you know, it feels like it's not completely yours, or that you're going to get judged for that, or...
Kind of, but then they're happy to put each other's names on it, though.
Yeah,
so true. So that doesn't fly with me. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm always like, let them off the hook. So anyway, so had that really bittersweet. And then I also, not long after, had a song that John Summit wanted to cut.
Great.
Which I was like over the moon record. About. Had been a huge fan of his music. And actually, I have to say with that, it was never a question about whether my name would be on it. So that's
great.
There was still a while of like him playing the record out and me being like, John, are you gonna release it?
Which is really important because that's your publishing. And actually, I was on a panel recently and a publisher spoke about this exact thing, that there are people that would like to test out the records because a lot of DJs do want to test out the records.
I get
but
that.
Then you're playing the music out, and that is our publishing. And we do make income through PRS, through live performance. So all songs should be registered, and this whole like kind of testing it out thing, because there are people that are testing things out and then deciding, actually, it doesn't work with my audience, I'm not going to release it. But then they played it at like 30 shows, and that's 30 shows worth of income. So get your songs registered.
Yeah, I think there does need to be a standard for, if not the full deal done, a deal done before songs are played out, or at the very least, it needs to be run past all of the writers to be like, is it cool with you if I test this out?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that does need to become a standard.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Anyway, it all went well, and we ended up releasing the record, which is incredible and really exciting. And that actually is one of the key things that I think led to the Billie record, because I went out to ADE that year. And at the Warner party, I met an A&R, and he was kind of like, oh, you know, what do you do? And I could see that he was kind of sussing me out, being like, are you just a bit of a chancer? And I was like, oh, I actually have a John Summit record coming out next week. And I could see him be like, okay, I'm going to take you seriously now.
Yeah. You can always see the glaze of the eye.
The like, kind of switch in.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm interested now.
And, you know, as I'm sure you've had experience with, I have had so many things where I've pitched things and had no response. So I kind of had pretty low expectations.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, send me some records. And I was like, yeah, cool, like, I'll do it. But I'm not expecting even a response.
Yeah.
And I think I, sent maybe 4 top lines. And DNA was one of them. And he came like straight back to me and he was like, I have someone, I want to try this. Give me 1 week with it. Which again, I'd had so many things where I'd been like, oh, I might sit on this for 6 months and see how I feel.
Love a fast A&R.
And sure enough, within a week, he'd sent back a version which was pretty much what you hear now.
Nice.
And he was like, I can't tell you who it is because I've not signed him yet. But it's this kind of new, like, DJ that I'm really excited about. And I just loved it.
I love that. And I think one of the really special things about this record for you as well is you've got the unicorn record. And I think that's something that we all really love and want, is like, it's great to try and get a song with a big person because it's like, it's going to do a certain amount. But to get a record with a new artist that just connects and is a career changer, that's a really special one.
It does feel really special, and Billie is such a nice person, and it's been all the sweeter through the last 6 months. The amount of messages that we sent to each other being like, oh my God, this has happened.
That's lovely.
Incredible. And
and your name's on this one.
And my name's on it. And
have you noticed the difference with having your name on this record?
Yeah. It's made a huge difference. It's been the first thing where I've been like, oh wow, people are opening doors for me. I'm not having to like kick them down. I'm so grateful for this record, and also want to shout out Nathan Nicholson, who I wrote the original top line with.
One Nathan.
Yeah, he always supports my weird ideas and makes them into something palatable. So
I love that. We all need that.
Yeah.
That little person that's like, yes, and let's rein it into here. Myself and Louis Ryan do that to each other quite a lot. How about this? Yes, Louis, that's fantastic, but let's just go here.
Love that.
So from storming the charts for this record, but the other thing I quite like about this record was a bit of a slow burn, right? So it was like, it was kind of doing all right, but then TikTok took it.
We signed it all in... What year are we on?
2024.
So I think it all got signed in like the February or the March of 23. And then I went to Miami Music Week, and that was actually the first time I'd met Billie, and we kind of spent some time in the studio together, like just doing the final tweaks on the record.
Yeah.
And actually that was one of these funny things because I was chatting to him and he was like, oh, do you perform live? And I was like, not really, because I was still in my phase of like, I'm not really a real artist and I'm scared about performing live again. And he was like, well, I'm doing Creamfields in the summer. So like, if the song's out by then, like, would that be something you would do? And I was like, I'd do that.
I check my diary, yes.
Yeah.
And this is lovely and he sounds brilliant. Have you felt like you felt this kind of support from other artists you've written and sung records for in terms of bringing you in, or has this like been your first great experience of this?
I think this has definitely been my first great experience of this. I feel like because of this, I think I've now noticed a change because now people are like, oh, we've actually heard of you.
Right, yeah.
But I think he's been the first person to really, he's treated this as our record rather than like his record that I'm on.
Yes, which happens quite a lot.
And it does feel like our record because it's the top line is really special to me, and his production, one, is very different to how the record started, and he has really brought a magic to it. So it feels like we've both brought our own thing to it, and it's been like just the perfect meeting of creativity.
I love that. Big up Billy and big up that. This is the reason why we've got this podcast as well, is to really shout out vocal artists in dance and our contributions for it, but then really celebrate and champion when you've got a synergy of relationship like this, because it makes such a good feeling for the record, and the record will then stand the test of time. There's nothing worse than having a record do really well and look back and feel those bad feelings.
And I think also these kind of things show to the industry that
it is,
having my name on it didn't stop it from doing well.
No, exactly.
If anything, it meant that there were two of us out there promoting it. And I think it's been more exciting on the shows where he's brought me out. It makes it, it's just something special. So if anything, having the featured artist named on it, it's another person that's going out there and shouting about the record, and then the featured artist can go and perform it. And to me, it's a no-brainer as to why you would put someone's name on it.
Exactly. And the shows that you'll be doing won't necessarily be the shows that Billy's doing. And like, you're cross-promoting the record in every way that you can. So I absolutely love that. It's very exciting. Congratulations to your huge record.
Thank you.
And the next chapter. So what is the future for Hannah Boleyn now?
So partly I'm still kind of just going with the like lean into what's working, and as you know, this industry is changes every day. So got quite a few songs with DJs that I'm excited about, but whether they ever come out is another thing. I am working on another record with Billy.
Brilliant.
That, fingers crossed, looks like it should all be going ahead, and I think we're about to kind of sign off the deal, which means we can actually both start performing it.
Yes.
And
I love that bit of David Guetta Sear action.
Yeah, I think like I actually remember seeing something with Belters Only where they'd done a follow-up with Jazzy.
Yeah.
And kind of them joking about how people do records together and then like never work with each other again. And you're like, why would you not work with each other again?
I know, if it worked, it worked. And it's a great thing, I think. But again, that's some of the ego of the industry. It's like, been there, done that, so I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
So I love that. And that's such a great relationship. And if you have that connection, you could write one for him one day that you're not featuring on, or he could produce something for you, which is your own record. It's like, it's just great to keep good relationships in this business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that. So I think we're wrapping up for today. And it's gone very fast.
It has.
As it always does. I know. But we're going to listen out for that record. Where can people find you?
Where can they find me? Hannah Boleyn Music on Instagram.
Yes.
I'm on TikTok.
Yeah.
Don't know what my handle is, but Hannah Boleyn.
Hannah Boleyn.
Spelt like the Queen, not the city.
Nice.
Yeah, and I am starting to do my own gigs, so
Woohoo!
I'll be posting about those. So come say hi.
And there will be more than 4 people in the audience now.
Hopefully.
There will be. Thank you so much, Hannah. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.